Hey there folks, Santee at the Arizona Ghostriders here. Repairs and fixes in the Old West. How did they do it? Oh, and another thing. We're doing a holiday sale on our t-shirts and mugs, so please check it out down there in the description field, teespring.com. You know what? Let's get to the episode. Not all Westerners lived in a sprawling town. There were many homesteads dotting the land, not to mention trappers and hunters were still roaming around. If you lived far away from a settlement, you were basically on your own for a lot of things. Duct tape didn't come around until World War II, so if something broke, how would you fix it? A lot of this know-how came from Native Americans, who had been living off the land since their existence. They made clothes, shelter, and tools for centuries without forging any metal. Of course they repaired their own equipment. Piggin strings were rawhide or leather strips used primarily for tying the feet of cattle to brand or castrate them. Cowboys carried them in their pockets or saddlebags, essentially the paracord of the day. A very useful tool. Speaking of cowboys, we've talked about the bandana in previous episodes. That can be used to patch clothing if need be. On the subject of patching clothing, the Yucca Plant came into play. Its filament gave you a needle and thread in a pinch. You would use the spiny point for the needle and cut a length of the leaf attached to it for the thread. Sure, you could braid this to make it even stronger. Rawhide had a lot of uses in the West, from knife sheaths to glue. Native Americans and frontiersmen would use it to repair the stock of their rifle if it cracked. Incidentally, my coach gun split one day when shooting with Arizona Red. I started to repair it with wood glue, but found photos of historic rawhide repairs and decided to try that. Finding rawhide was easy. It's the same stuff you give Rover to chew on from the pets aisle in the grocery store. You just soak it in water overnight and you've got a pliable material. Well, it worked like a charm, and the bond it created is rock solid. Native Americans would use boiled down rawhide as a glue to build arrows or repair bows. On their person they could carry homemade glue sticks, which, with a little liquid, can be brought into action. During the Western migration, wagon trains carried extra parts to replace the ones that were bound to wear out or break. And to do a major repair meant you had to unload the whole wagon. If one of the rungs of your wagon wheel cracks and you haven't got a spare, then you need to fix it.
Basically what they would do is if they were on a trip, traveling great distance, and say they'd crushed a river or rough terrain and they had noticed that one of their spokes had split or cracked, they would wrap it in rope and tie it off as tight as they could tie it to kind of ensure stability, at least until they got somewhere where they could get it repaired.
Oh, and they also kept rawhide around to repair ropes and harnesses. Barbed wire repair was a chore. A ranch hand had to go out and mend the fence by twisting the wire together and adding a barb to secure it. Or, if there was a gap, they would use wire from a spare spool to replace it. Plywood was introduced in 1865 and corrugated sheet metal somewhere in the 1820s. Both of these could be used to repair the roofs or walls of structures if they were available. Here in the Southwest, where many buildings were made from adobe, the fix is simple, just more adobe mud. Remember, there was no Home Depot back then. Often our old Westians had to be clever and resourceful in repairing the items that they needed in order to survive. Well folks, that's it for repairs and fixes in the Old West. If you know of any repairs and fixes they did in the 19th century, please put them down in the comments field below. And
Santee, take a look at this.
Grubby.
Take a look at what I just got.
Grubby.
It's beautiful. Yes, sir.
I'm trying to do an outro. I'm trying to film something here.
I'm sorry about that.
You got a mug.
Yes,
good.
sir.
You got a
pretty?
mug. That's great. Yeah, I like it. It's very nice. Oh, it came out good.
It's gorgeous. I got one for you too.
You got one for me?
Yes, sir. I done thought of you.
Oh, I feel bad now for yelling at you. You know.
Yes, okay. You're my buddy.
Grubby, it's broken. Are they all broken?
Oh, no, sir. They didn't come like this at all. No, sir. I done talked to your missus, and she told me that every mug you got there in the house is all broke up. So I just figured I'd save you some time.
Thank you, I guess.
Yeah, I done all the thinking.
Here's one for you.
Oh, You're giving me your mug?
Yes, for you.
Well, thank you so much. That's very thoughtful of you. I got a mug after. Oh, oh, oh.
Oh, no!
Please like, share, and subscribe.
And we'll see you on down the trail.
Oh, 10 years now?
Yeah, at least.
Oh, excuse me.
Quiet on the set.